So welcome. This is Kristen Crabtree with Lance Edwards Group. We have a special treat today. We're interviewing a new apartment champion who is here to share her story about how she closed on her multifamily deal, her first one since starting with Lance's system. Please help me welcome Stacey.
Hi, guys.
Awesome. Okay, so you just said that there's a great story. So let's go ahead with that story and then we can proceed from there.
Well, let me back up a bit and just talk about, I went to Lance's boot camp. I think it was in August of 91 and, not 91, sorry. What was it? 2020? No, 2019. That's what it was. Sorry. 2019.
I kind of figured, but okay.
Yeah. I'm getting my, sorry. It's menopause. Anyway, 2019. And the reason why I took it is I had ventured into real estate back in 07, 08 and took a bunch of courses, paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to do all this training, and followed the training, and the economy took a dump, right? And the housing market especially crashed, and everything that I had done, that I had invested in, I lost. I ended up filing for bankruptcy. I mean, it was ugly. And I said, never again. I will not do real estate again. And I didn't for many years. And I've been self-employed doing various things and doing okay, but never, I was really having a hard time recovering after the bankruptcy. So fast forward to 2019, I was going under the knife for a knee surgery, and I was going to be down and out for a couple of months. And I decided I wanted to take that time to just readjust what I was doing and figure out a different way to make money. And that's where I ran into Lance's program. And what appealed to me was the ability to make money without risk. And where I had lost everything in 07, 08, or almost everything, I was able to make money without risking anything by doing apartment wholesaling. And that just really intrigued me. So I decided to take his boot camp, and, I did the at-home course first and went to his boot camp probably 6 weeks later, 8 months later, a couple months later. And I was hobbling on my cane and everything, and decided, okay, I got to get my first deal. And so I worked and worked and worked. I honestly didn't have the money to do any marketing. And so the way I found it is through, don't tell anybody, this is a secret, Craigslist. So I just kept combing Craigslist, and I found this building in St. Joseph, Missouri, a 9-unit. And of course I had questions. Of course I had a lot of kind of fear-based things, because it was all new, and it's like, what if I get it under contract and I can't sell it, and all these questions, and the price is too high, I shouldn't do it. Well, I reached out. I couldn't afford Lance's coaching at the time, and so I reached it. But what you do get with the boot camp, at least you did then, I could email them with any questions that I had. So I ended up having Heather in the office, and I don't think she's there anymore, but she was just instrumental in answering my questions and giving me fabulous advice. So I just pushed through the uncomfortable, because it was all uncomfortable, right? And ended up getting this building under contract in October of 19. So of course, you can also submit your property once you have it under contract to Lance's list. So I did that, and they put it on their list, but they also told me to put it on, here's another big tip, to put it on LoopNet. Well, LoopNet costs money, but I decided, all right, I'll pay for it. And so I did. And I got a lot of inquiries off of LoopNet, and to this day, I've got a really decent buyers list just off of that one LoopNet ad. So I ended up with two. When I had enough interest, I ended up doing a call for offers, give me your best offer by this date, and I ended up with two full price offers that I was asking. And so I had to choose between two buyers. I wanted to go with the one, which was these group of guys. They didn't have a lot of experience. They had some, versus this other one that the realtor said had tons of experience, could close quickly and all this, right? And I really wanted to go with the guys, but I ended up going with her because she could close quick and was using hard money, which you can close quicker on. So we get into that, and she didn't close when she was supposed to. So I gave her an extension, excuses. And I gave her a couple of extensions, and along with that, I would get extensions from the seller. I ended up that what happened, at the beginning of 2020 was COVID. Right. And so COVID hits, and she was close to closing. I think she was like within a week or two. And the reason why she didn't close is she didn't like her hard money deal. And in reality, I think the realtor was a little fuzzy on the details, and she didn't have as much experience as, he said she did. Supposedly she and her sisters the sisters had all this experience. This was the first one in her name and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, bottom line, she did not close in time, and she didn't close before COVID hit. Well, what happened when COVID hit? All the banks stopped lending.
Right.
And I had this property it was a 9-unit in St. Joseph, Missouri, beautiful old building, like kind of this mansion that at one point was broken up into these different units, but a beautiful building, but it needed some work, but it was occupied and making money. And that was one of the big reasons why I wanted, to get it under contract. So, so the bank stopped lending, and I go into a frenzy of trying to help her find money. And on top of it, she's a nurse, and the nurses are just being overworked during COVID, right? So like I said, I'm scrambling, trying to help her find a lender, and couldn't find anybody. Not that would land on that property at that time. Like I said, the banks just stopped lending. So ultimately she fell through, and she had tied up this property for so many months. I had only asked for $1,000 down, and she was able to get that money back. So she had she had paid for an inspection. She was done with all the due diligence. It was just the close. And so she lost, that money in the inspection stuff, but she got her $1,000 back out of escrow. And the seller worked at the bank that he had the mortgage at, actually. And so, we even tried to get the mortgage through them, wouldn't do it. So here I am. I'm just devastated because I was going to make $25,000 on that deal. And so I sold it to them for $265, I think. So and that was a lot of money. It still is a lot of money to me. Right. And so I was just devastated, but I'm like, I am not going to quit. I kept that ad up on LoopNet the whole time. Was getting inquiries. The first people dropped out. They weren't interested anymore. Buyer number 2 came up, and he was overseas, and he asked me to find a lawyer locally for him. So I found somebody in Missouri, and he ended up sending a fraudulent check to the attorney. So buyer number 2, right? So this whole time I'm getting extensions from the seller. Well, the seller, of course, during COVID, nobody, isn't going to really try to sell it to anybody else. So I had that going for me. And I just renegotiated a few of the terms that he'd make a little bit more money and so forth. If he would just allow me to keep trying to find another partner, is how I put it. So I did get another phone call from buyer number 3, and she ended up being the perfect buyer. She was in California, where I am. And she loves like these types of buildings, and called and got pre-approval. At this point, the bank started lending again. And so she got pre-approval at like a local bank. ended up closing. I did reduce the price a little bit, so I ended up making 15,000 on that one. But so I got it under contract at the very end of October, and I closed with her. I think it was in June or July the following year. So that's how long I kept going and going and going to make this.
So like 9, is that like 9?
It's like 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
6 months.
Okay.
So, or no, that would be more, wouldn't it? Yeah, 6, 7, 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun. But I'm telling you, but that first check, oh my gosh, when I got that first check, it was so exciting, and I learned a lot. I learned like to make sure you get a lot more money down, and to make that money hard money after, as far as the deposit goes, after a certain amount of time. That's what I do now. I actually ask for 10,000 into escrow now. Oh, by the way, I think I put $100 down to hold the property, right? But my buyers had to put thousands into escrow. So yeah, in fact, I think that third buyer, I had her put 10,000 into escrow and gave her like 10 days to pull out of it if she wanted to for any reason. And after that, it was hard. She would, so that way it's like past that 10 days, you're not walking away unless you're willing to lose that money.
Right. Okay. So I know you did another deal, the 6-unit one, which I'd love to hear.
I did one quickly after that one, thankfully. And it was really just fluke again. I opened up Craigslist one day and kind of found this needle in the haystack. This one was a 6-unit in Ironton, Ohio. This good old boy was selling it, and Rick, great guy. And he had just put up the listing like a few days before, so I just happened to catch it right at the beginning. And he put in the listing that he was willing to take seller financing, and it makes it a lot easier to sell a property, wholesale a property, if you can get seller financing. So I went ahead and got that one under contract, and after several days of hounding him, because his asking price was a really good deal, even with seller financing. So I kept after him. And, this is the thing, guys, when you find a good deal, you must get it under contract ASAP, because somebody else will if you don't. So I did. I kept after this guy and got it under contract. Again, marketed it. I actually marketed it just to my list. I didn't even put it back up on LoopNet, even though I was paying for a year of LoopNet. I should have, because I would have gotten more buyers on my list, but I didn't. And just used my list and and it ended up being also a student of Lance's that bought that one. The second one, and he closed pretty quickly because again, with seller financing, you're not waiting for the bank. And I made 25,000 on that one. So
awesome. And so from when you got the contract with the seller to when the buyer closed, how many months was that one?
Oh, it was I would say no more than 2 months. I think it was probably less than 2 months.
Okay.
By the time I found the buyer, got him under it was less than 2 months.
Awesome. So you made reference to asking for more deposit now, and having that deposit be locked in. But it also sounded like you had stopped this at some point. So are you still doing investing? And if so,
I am. I kind of stopped wholesaling just to learn some other techniques and such. So I've been in different trainings and so forth. And at times I still do my Craigslist thing, and just haven't. I had one other property under contract that ended up not working out, which actually was a blessing because it was really in bad shape. And so that one didn't work out. But yes, I am continuing to do it. I do continue to look at Craigslist. I actually need to start marketing, and my problem is right now just deal flow, obviously bringing in the deals. And obviously I want to start holding properties myself. As soon as just financially, I feel secure because of what happened in '08. I want to make sure I'm just super financially secure before I take on any more risk.
Right.
So that's where
That
I'm
makes
at.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I had another question for you. You made reference to real estate courses in 2007, 2008. So were those to be a real estate agent? Were those to do investing? What?
Yeah, those were investing, and it was through, some big name guru at the time that was running. Back then, they were running ads in newspapers, right? So yeah, I learned a whole bunch of different strategies and flew all over the country actually for different courses and stuff like that. And it was some of the training was, I feel, was lacking, if I can say that. And then the timing of it, I mean, they were literally teaching us, and probably still to this day, they teach to, use your credit card. At that time, I had tons and tons of credit. So it was one of those, use your credit card. You can go buy houses in Detroit or Kansas City or, these other downtrodden cities. Or areas, not the entire city, pardon me. No offense to these cities.
Right.
But areas where there were a lot of foreclosures at the time and so forth, where you could buy a house for a couple $1,000s,
Right.
And so that's what I was doing. And and I did some fixing up and keeping and renting out. I did some fixing up and trying to flip, and a bazillion things went wrong. I don't think you wanted me to go into all that, but yeah, a bazillion things went wrong, and then the economy crashed. So
Right. Okay.
yeah.
You also mentioned that you're self-employed. So what's your personal background?
I actually went to school for music and engineering.
Okay.
Berklee College of Music in Boston, and
Wow.
as a singer. And I've done that throughout the years. And when I came to LA, I ended up doing more studio management kind of things, and as opposed to actual engineering and so forth. So I did that for several years, and then I started my own business doing CD and DVD duplication and graphic design. And that was good up until iTunes came out and kind of ruined the whole CD market. So I still have that business because I have clients that I still work with that are basically like touring musicians, but it doesn't pay the rent. So I've just done a bunch of other stuff, online marketing and stuff like that, to kind of pay the bills throughout the years.
Okay. Do you have a specific financial goal for your real estate investing business?
Yeah. Number one, to get out of debt. Number two, I want to be able to retire in like 5 years if I want to. And that for me is going to be, with apartment buildings and having that residual income coming in from those apartment buildings. Being self-employed, I don't have a retirement plan. I haven't had a retirement plan. I haven't been saving. I've been honestly just struggling really since this bankruptcy in 07, 08, until Lance's program taught me how to wholesale. And that's what really got me out of the struggle. So I'm so grateful for the program and the training that I got from Lance. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So retirement, is there like a specific target in order to make that happen? And what would retiring in 5 years do for you?
Well, it would free me up to do the things that, I dream of doing, like, traveling the world and just having time, having my time back, right, to do whatever it is I want to do. So.
Okay. So is that your ultimate dream, to have that freedom to travel? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned some obstacles, having the market crash and bankruptcy and that type of thing. Is there anything else you want to add to that in terms of obstacles that you faced or challenges that you had entering the market or anything like that?
Well, obviously so when you're wholesaling an apartment building, you need to find off-market properties, and whether it be apartment buildings or homes. Typically you're not going to be able to wholesale something that's on the MLS or on LoopNet or already, being sold, because the first thing like I do when I'm looking at a property is I Google the address. And so if it's already online on sale online, people can see the prices, right?
Mhm.
And so you don't want them to know necessarily what you bought it for. So you really need to find that off-market property. So you either, which Craigslist really doesn't come up in, first of all, people don't usually even put a full address on Craigslist for a property, but even if they did, it wouldn't come up in the search engines. So Craigslist is good, but it's a needle in the haystack, honestly, with Craigslist, because what's mostly on Craigslist are wholesalers trying to sell their properties. So you need to sift through all of that to try to find, a seller, and the true seller sold by owner, for sale by owner. So either you spend a whole lot of time or pay somebody to spend that time to comb through all this stuff, or you spend the money and you do the marketing, right? And I know Lance's coaching program, and I don't remember if he taught if he teaches the marketing part. I think he does in the boot camp. But that costs money to start sending out postcards and stuff like that. But that's really, if you want deal flow, you really need to do that. And I didn't do this, but another way of doing it is to reach out to realtors and see if they can send you stuff that isn't on the market yet, right? That's a good deal. So that's another way of doing it. But yeah, that's a big obstacle, just finding the properties, right? And then once you get it under contract, there's just, before you do it, the first time you do it, you have a million questions, and that's where, like I said, my ability to email Lance's team and ask these questions was huge. And so on and so forth. So yeah, and the obstacles really are mostly, I shouldn't say mostly, because the pandemic was a huge obstacle, right? But in from many ways, but and I find, and probably a lot of people find, that a lot of the obstacles are in your head, right? And that we're fearful of doing stuff wrong, of doing it. For me, just probably basically doing it wrong. And I didn't want to risk, losing anything. And of course, when you only put $100 down, I was willing to risk $100. I put $500 down into the second one, but I knew it was such an amazing deal. I knew I already had this buyer's list. I knew for sure I could make that back, and I did. So it's really just pushing past the uncomfortable. So when you hit a roadblock, whatever that is, you don't know something, you don't have the right contract, you don't know how to fill out the contract, you don't know what to do from here, there's these obstacles. And are you going to let the obstacles stop you, or are you going to find a way to, blow through it, climb over it, go around it, however, face that obstacle and get past it, right? That's what is the biggest challenge for me, and probably for most of you out there. Yeah.
So how did you do that? You've mentioned sticking with it, hanging in there, but what is it that allowed you to do that or motivated you to do that?
I think, I needed the money desperately. I was in a lot of debt and I really needed the money. And I was really motivated by Lance at the time. I don't know if he still is, but he was offering, if you get your first deal within 6 months, I'll give you your boot camp money back. And so I was determined to get that boot camp money back. And honestly, if I had closed that first deal, the first buyer, if that had closed on time, I would have gotten it back. And so when that fell through, not only did I, lose the deal, but I lost the boot camp money. I'm like, oh, but I was really highly motivated by money, and honestly by failures of my past. I'm like, I am not going to fail. I am not going to waste this money on this boot camp. I'm going to make this work. And so it was just this dogged determination to make it work and make it happen. And I was not going to, it took me so long to get that one deal under contract, that first deal, a few months, but to just push and push and push to finally get a deal under contract. It's like, okay, now I am not letting this go until I make some money,
Right.
and that's what kept me going through, buyer number 1, 2, and 3. Right. So, although honestly, when 3 came up, I was almost done. When she first called me, I honestly didn't think it was going to turn into a sale. And I didn't even send her the information I told her I was going to send her after the phone call, because I was like, She calls me up, I don't know, a week later saying, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't send you that, And she's like, oh, don't worry, I'm already approved. I'm like, what? So that was a blessing, a huge blessing, because I was ready to quit on that one, but pretty close anyway. But and she's done, oh my gosh, she was the perfect buyer for this. We've stayed in touch, and she has renovated it, lovingly renovated it, and has turned some of the units into Airbnbs in St. Joseph, Missouri, and is making money on them. I'm so excited for her, because she's done so well with it. Yeah.
So how has investing in real estate impacted other areas of your life?
It's definitely given me more time. When I got those chunks of money, I was able to pay off debt. I was able to just kind of stop the grind for a little bit, and giving me more assurance. Like, before I got these deals under contract, before I got them closed, I started going to meetups, again, pre-pandemic, of real estate investors. And honestly, I was intimidated. I'd walk in, and first of all, it was mostly men. But second of all, it was like, yeah, I'm an apartment wholesaler and I haven't done anything yet, kind of thing. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't assured of myself. And after my first deal, I had the swag then, I had the swagger, so I could walk in and go, oh yeah, I'm an apartment wholesaler. I just did my first deal, got the second one under contract. You want to buy it? So it changed. Yeah. I am, even though I haven't done a wholesale deal in a couple of years, I know that I could find the right deal if I just, spend the time to do it, and whether it be time or marketing, and do it again. And I absolutely, 100% know it. And that's the thing. I actually did a talk on my first deal where I made $15,000, which isn't, it's not life-changing money, right? It's mm-hmm. not like $100,000 or whatever. But to me, that was life-changing money, because it proved the concept. It proved that I could do it. It proved that, especially with all I had to go through to get it done, that I'm like, oh my gosh, hopefully this is the hardest one I'll ever do, right? And hopefully they're all easier from here. And I learned so much from this first deal. It was unreal. And so to that $15,000 changed my life. And yeah, I'm very excited about doing real estate, doing more of it, and again, starting to collect some doors of my own. So yeah.
So what did you hope would happen that hasn't?
I haven't been able to do a constant deal flow, and haven't been constantly doing it yet. And I'm in some training right now to help me do that. That's really specific to marketing. So yeah, pretty soon I'm going to have, I'm doing some single families, but I'm also going to use that training and use that for apartments as well.
Okay. And what has happened that surprised you?
COVID.
Okay.
I mean, the first time I got into investing in 2007, the economy crashes, right? We have like the worst housing crash in probably since the Depression. Mm-hmm. Surprise, right? And then this time I get into it, and it's a worldwide pandemic, and it seriously affected the real estate market. So yeah.
So what brought you? I know you said that I know in a practical way, you said the reason you got back into real estate was you saw the ad in the paper. But what drew you back to real estate after having the bankruptcy and the, market crash and all of that?
I love it. I really do love it. I love houses. I love, buying and selling them and finding the deal and negotiating the deal. I really love the whole aspect of it. So, and the ability to make big chunks of money at a time, right? Whether it be 5,000 or, on a small single family home flip or 100,000 on an apartment flip, which I haven't made yet, but, the chunks of money really attract me. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So what would you say are the strengths that you possess that made this endeavor easier for you or possible for you?
I think just I've done a lot of sales in the background, having run my own business, so probably having a good sales background. And I do graphic design, so I was able to design like some nice flyers, for the properties and such. But most importantly, just a stick-to-itiveness, just not stopping, when it got hard, I just kept going. And other than that, I mean, I'm not a Mensa intelligence or, it really is something that anybody can do if they stick to it. And they got to learn the skills, you got to learn the skills. And Lance's boot camp gives you an incredible overview. If you want to get into apartments, it really gives you a good foundation of how to analyze apartment. Like I walked away from Lance's boot camp confident in my ability to analyze properties from afar. I didn't see either of these properties right. So to analyze a property from afar and know whether it's a good deal or not, and then to get it under contract when it's a good deal, you gotta go, and you gotta do it. So yeah, it all of those things combine in helping you. But yeah, if you don't have that foundation and that knowledge, the average Joe just walking around isn't going to know how to analyze an apartment building. Even, most people that get training in real estate investing, they learn single family home analysis and such, which is completely different on these apartment buildings 5 and up. Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the other reason why I really like being able to buy and sell apartment buildings from afar, where it's mostly based on the numbers, so.
Okay. So what personal characteristics would you say you have that worked against you in the beginning?
Probably lack of focus, when because I do so many different things throughout the day to make money. Part of it's that, part of it's just, yeah. But for me, probably just lack of just focusing. You really got to just put your blinders on. Like if this is what you're going to do it. And don't do anything else. And don't let anybody else sell you any other coaching, or any training, or you really got to put your blinders and then don't stop.
So on a practical level, how did you do that? Like what tools did you pull from to be able to give you that focus?
Desperation. Again, getting my boot camp money back from Lance was very motivating to me. So I'm like, I'm going to get this money back. I'm going to find a deal. I'm going to get it done, and that honestly was hugely motivating for me. And so it was just that, just finding your why and making that so big that you can't do anything else. Right.
So is your ultimate why the travel and time, or do you have another why?
Well, the closest one, like I said back then, was to pay down debt. Right. And I did. I paid down debt, way down debt. And that was my main motivation at that time. I was just kind of sick of the struggle. I mean, at the time I was like driving for Lyft and making really crappy money and driving crazy amounts of hours and crazy people and some crazy people. And yeah, I got stories to tell, but the grind for that was just killing me, you know? And so, yeah, I haven't done that since then.
So this is a question that you absolutely do not have to answer, but you've alluded to it a couple of times, and I think it could be a valuable piece of information. How much debt were you in, and where are you at now?
Oh, how much debt was I in? Probably about 20K, like besides my like car and my home,
Mhm.
probably about 20K. And I had paid pretty much all of that off, and but I've slowly been creeping back up. So I'm probably around the same spot right now, but I'm kind of in a very different place financially anyway. So
tell me about that. That was going to be one of my questions, and I hadn't gotten to it yet.
what's that?
You said your debt's about the same, but you're in a very different place financially. So tell me.
Well, in a sense that, I mean, I have the assurance that I know that I can go out and within a few months, hopefully close on another property or 2 or 3 and pay that down. Right. And actually most of that has been some training that I've been paying for anyway. And so it's like a business expense to me. It's not like I've been, going crazy on buying stuff.
Right.
It's real. I've been really reinvesting into my education and training. So
Okay, good.
yeah.
And again, you've mentioned a couple of things that are different about you in terms of the who you are component. You mentioned the swag and the confidence, and now you've just mentioned knowing that you could go out there and make that money. So is there anything else that you want to highlight that's changed about who you are since you started down this path?
No, I think that's it. Like I said, just having when you have a win, your first win, it changes everything, it changes everything. And it proves to you that you can do it. And so, for anybody out there that is still struggling and still trying to get their first deal, keep going. It's out there, it's out there. And if you need help, reach out to Lance's team. Reach out to your coach if you have a coach. It's yeah, you just got to keep going. And, those deals might fall through, but then you get the next one, I mean, I had a pandemic hit me where again, nobody could get money.
Right.
And, through the grace of God, I was able to find that third buyer. So
what did you discover anything about yourself that surprised you?
I feel like I'm old enough and experienced enough that I didn't really find anything that surprised me.
Okay. Last question. You've mentioned retiring in 5 years. So I think I know where the answer's going, but I want you to imagine yourself 5 years from now. So how is your life different at that point?
Well, hopefully married to a good guy. I'm still single. And, living it up, living wherever we want to live. Right. And just having the piece, the flexibility to be able to go and do and contribute to whatever it is we want to do, So I don't have a specific place in mind. I don't think I'll be in LA in 5 years. Yeah, but yeah, it just a piece of knowing that I'm taken care of, for the rest. I don't have any kids, so I'm not worried about my legacy of handing down necessarily, but just knowing that I'm going to be taken care of in my older years with the properties that I own, that's huge to have that peace of mind. Yeah.
All right. Last one. Do you have any additional advice beyond the things you've already said about sticking with it and hanging in there? Do you have any other advice to offer?
I think I've given you all my good tips. yeah, I think I've given it to you. It's just, like I said, it's pushing past the uncomfortable. I think that's the most important, because there's going to be a lot especially when you're new, there's going to be a lot that's uncomfortable, and it could stop you in your tracks. And if you let it stop you, you're not going to get anywhere, right? So it's pushing past that, finding the answers, getting through your roadblocks, and continuing on, and just go step by step. Okay, I've got it under contract. Now what do I do? Okay, I got to put marketing together. Do you have that ability? You could do just the easy one sheet that Lance gives you. Look at what realtors do. They have these really fancy one sheets or two sheets or three sheets, and they create these beautiful PDFs. Well, you can go on Fiverr.com and have somebody do that for you if you don't know how to do it. Do you have to? No. But does it give a good impression of your property, more so than just a 8x10 sheet of paper with some words on it and a few pictures? Yeah. And you need to learn some sales techniques, because if you're wholesaling, you are going to sell it. And so I fortunately had that in my arsenal. But if you don't, read some books on sales, on how to close a deal. So it's, those are my big tips. Learn how to sell. And for the things that you don't know how to do, or you don't have time for, if you can hire someone else to do it, whether it be on Fiverr or Upwork or something like that, or partnering with somebody, do anything you need to do to get the deal done, right? Anything ethically, right? So, those would be my tips.
Awesome, Stacey. So with Lance Edwards, this is Kristen Crabtree. Please join us again when we interview our next apartment champion. If you'd like to learn how you could be our next apartment champion, please call our office at 281-667-3638. You're only one deal away.
That's true.
Okay, so hold
Thanks.
on.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Thank you.